So does a third entry in every trilogy have to suck? Let's talk Scream 3. Hey guys, and welcome back to Dino Reviews. So today we are talking Scream 3. So Scream 3 was released in 2000. It's an American slasher film directed by Wes Craven. It's actually written this time by Ehren Kruger. Now the movie does bring back the original cast of Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox and David Arquette, and this time they're actually joined by Patrick Dempsey. So guys, this one honestly, it was a bit of a strange one to review because it's so decisive with the Scream fan base. I think a lot of people actually despise this movie, and there are quite a lot of horror fans who actually call it a terrible movie. For me guys, looking at this movie, I do still enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with Scream 3. I don't think it's actually a bad horror movie, I just think it's a bad Scream movie. Where I think Scream 3 kind of falls apart is they rely a little bit too much on humour and kind of throwing too many meta jokes at the audience. So Kevin Williamson also didn't come back to write the script in this one, and it does hurt the film overall. I also don't mind them actually bringing the story to Hollywood. I thought it was a great way to kind of wrap up the story, especially having a set on the set of Stab 3 and surrounding that cast. It was a great way as well to go back to Woodsboro. Even though it is a set, there is just something great about it because these movies constantly talk about movies. They constantly talk about horror movies. So it was a great way to kind of bring the whole thing full circle. But then you look at the comedy, and the movie does center quite a lot on that, especially in the first act of the movie. And that's kind of my one big negative going into this. A lot of the first act of the movie, even like the first 2/3 of the movie, are actually centered on Dewey and Gale. So they are kind of coming back and investigating these murders that are happening on the set of Stab 3. Now what they slowly find out is somebody's actually looking for Sidney Prescott. So Sidney Prescott has gone into hiding since the last movie, and she's really nowhere to be found. The movie as well, it kind of opens up with Cotton Wary being the opening kill, and again I talked about this in my review for Scream and Scream 2. These movies generally have brilliant opening scenes. When it comes to Scream 3, it just doesn't live up to it at all. It honestly just pales in comparison. And I get what they were doing. They want to kind of open it in a way that they could show the killer was looking for Sidney, but I do think they actually forgot about having that magic in the opening scene. But going back to Gale and Dewey, I think that's again another fault with the movie. They put too much time into those characters. With Scream 1 and Scream 2, Gale and Dewey were generally on the sidelines. They were of course a big part of the cast, but a lot of times they were there for comedic effect. As well as that, we don't see enough of Sidney. Now I know at the time Neve Campbell actually had kind of scheduling conflicts, so she couldn't actually appear in a lot of the movie, and the runtime of what her character is in is actually quite low. The rest of the cast as well are characters who are playing characters in the movie Stab 3, so production has been halted, and honestly they're just kind of these actors that complain throughout the entire movie. There's nothing like about them at all, and that's the one thing again with Scream 2 and the original Scream. All of the characters that you generally gel to, you generally care about the characters. There is nobody in this movie that you generally care about except for Gale, Dewey and Sidney. Now I did actually like the setting being on the set of Stab 3. So with the first movie going to the second movie, the kind of scale of the films were definitely getting bigger, and of course they're going as big as they can with Hollywood. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed as well kind of seeing the sets of Woodsboro, especially for Sidney in the scenes where she went back to Woodsboro or something that looked like it. It was great just for her to kind of revisit that period of her life where these tragic events happened, especially where she was at that point. You know, she kind of had these memories of being in her room talking to Billy Loomis, and when we catch up with Sidney in this one, she's the exact opposite. So she's kind of hidden away from the world. She has security all over her house, and nobody really knows where she is. For me, anytime Sidney Prescott was on screen, the movie was totally different. When we were with Gale and Dewey, just like the other movies, there was a lot more comedy. It was a little bit over the top at times, but when Sidney came on screen, almost every scene that she was in, there wasn't a lot of jokes being cracked. It was very serious. So she, again, you know, she is a woman who at this point in her life has just been surrounded by death for years, and she's kind of hidden herself away. But Sidney does come back when they kind of find out the entire thing is actually linked to her mother. Where originally started, the movie really gets going, and that's kind of in the second act of the film. From there are still those kind of silly bits here and there in there, but when Sidney's on screen, it's a much different movie. Even when kind of Randy comes back for that small cameo by Jamie Kennedy, it has a much darker and more serious tone. And I think for a trilogy, that's what you need. You need the last one in the trilogy to be a lot more serious. than the last two, and that kind of makes the movie very uneven. But even in the third act, we still have those jokes jumping in here and there. Parker Posey in particular, you know, she has a lot to do in the last act of the movie. So she plays a character who is playing the role of Gale Weathers on Stab 3. I will say, guys, growing up, I absolutely love that character. I think she's hilarious in the movie. You know, she's a very funny character and she has some great scenes. But again, if you look at it in the context of Scream and that whole world, it's very out of place. There's moments in this movie where Gale and Dewey are kind of talking about Sydney and they're unsure about her, and Parker Posey is coming in and cracking jokes and it just pulls you out of the scene. And that's the same with the last act of the movie. The last act of this movie is absolutely brilliant. I love everything that we have with Sydney and Ghostface. They have some great kind of back and forth dialogue, some really intense scenes, and it's a great way to bring the whole thing full circle. But at the same time, when they are having these seriously intense dramatic scenes, it constantly cuts back and forth to Gale and Dewey trying to get to Sydney. And they're trying to get to her with this really comical, silly music in the background. And I think a lot of that has got to do with Kevin Williamson not coming back and writing the script. Now, I know he did have a different script completely, where I think Stu from the first movie was actually still in prison, so he didn't die at the end of the first movie. Instead, he was in prison and kind of had this Ghostface cult working for him. Honestly, I would not like to see that script, but at the same time, what it's missing with this script is how clever the last two movies were. The dialogue is just not up to scratch. As I said, there's too many jokes and it's way too meta. It's basically just trying too much. All in all, Scream 3 is a very unbalanced movie. It has some great moments, so the Randy moment is absolutely brilliant. The final act of the movie I actually really enjoy, particularly between Sydney and Ghostface, and I love the whole Woodsboro set that they have. That whole sequence is done brilliantly. I just think the weak points of the movie is the script just isn't up to scratch. It's a very weak script. It relies too much on comedy and we just don't get enough of Sidney Prescott. But guys, if you are a fan of Scream 3, make sure you let me know what you love about the movie down in the comments below. More than likely, guys, we're 3 movies down. We will probably finish up with the 4th movie over the next few days. Also remember, guys, you can pop on the notification bell just so you don't miss any videos we're going to release over the next few weeks. If you like, guys, of course, let me know if there's a movie in particular you want me to review. Subscribe to the channel, guys, and I will see you in the next one.